Hi, my name is Lieutenant Colonel Nick Clark. I run the West Point Center for Data Analysis and Statistics. And with me today is Cadet Diego Soto, who is one of our applied statistics and data science majors here at West Point. And what we're going to talk about is a project that we got a chance to work on over the last year, along with Major Tim Moore, also of the math department, where we did reliability modeling for the Army's Extended Range Cannon Artillery project. And this really highlights West Point's data science support to the Army writ large, as well as specifically to the data science support that we offer to Army Futures Command and CCDC Armament Center. So Diego, thanks for joining me here. I was hoping you could kind of give a big overview of what the project is and what we did on it.
For sure, sir. First off, I was blessed enough to work on this project with Major Moore and Colonel Clark, but it's pretty much the IRCA 2 project. So it's the Extended Range Cannon. And so it's pretty much just a large, really big field artillery gun. That's kind of the big picture view of it. And so the problem that we were given was that they were not able to calculate like the probability of success of the actual weapon system because it hasn't been shot before, it's still in development. And so they came to us, they're like, hey, here's our problem. And so we decided that we could put together a sort of success probability based off of subject matter experts' opinions of the failure mode. So the certain friction points that we were given from the subject matter experts.
No, that's great. And I think one of the things we got to do on the project was interact with a lot of different engineers and got to start to see how other folks in the Army actually think about problems like this. So can you give an overview of you personally getting a chance to work on this? What are some of the things that you learned?
For sure. The first thing I would say is kind of gaining more proficiency with R. So that's the programming language that we use to kind of construct the survey that we sent out to these subject matter experts. And I was kind of already proficient in that, and I felt confident enough to step on to this project. Major Moore approached me about it. But more importantly, I kind of learned how to connect R and SQL databases, so using remote databases. At first, we kind of tested it with Amazon Azure, which is another cloud services, but we kind of decided on Amazon AWS, but we ended up with Microsoft Azure. And so I really learned how to use, hey, how can we integrate cloud computing and this problem that we have on the Army side, which I never really thought of like the Army as being kind of data science or technologically like focused or kind of being at the forefront of that. But I was blessed enough to see that. And then the second big thing would be learning how to work through problems that I may not know the answer to. So reaching out for help, and Colonel Clark has been great about that, and Major Moore likewise the same. And seeing how stuff works behind the scenes. So
yeah. So I think, Diego, one of the things that we struggled with a lot was figuring out how to get the information from the engineers. So we felt like they knew a lot about the individual subcomponents of the system. We had to elicit that information. So to me, that was one of the big challenges that we had to overcome. Was there any other challenges you can think of that you overcame in working on this project?
For sure. Something that's kind of obvious, but doesn't really, or at least obvious to me, and I know you're an old grad, sir, so to you as well, but project and school, right? So this is kind of an extra side project. Again, like I loved it. It was great working through it, but that's a side challenge of, hey, you're also a cadet. You have to work through this, and also here's the side research project. And so kind of dedicating the time and the meeting times for all three of us to meet and to talk about this. And I'd say separate from like the cadet side, the number one technical challenge that I faced was trying to figure out which database or which storage method we could use to remotely store all of the inputs from the subject matter experts and allow us to access that data pretty much anywhere and safely, of course. So
yeah. And I know one of the things that I really enjoy about West Point is the opportunity to work on both projects that are interesting academically, as well as projects that mean something to the Army. So for you as a cadet, what was it like to work on a real world project for the Army? Because I think this is really the first time that you had gotten to expand your scope beyond West Point.
For sure. I really appreciated it. And I really appreciate it because a lot of times, at least with programming problems here, I was a computer science major before I switched to applied stats. And a lot of the programming that we were taught, I just felt like it was just very classroom specific. Like I remember calling my parents being like, hey, like, how does this help? Like, what what is this going to help me with in the real world, and being able to actually utilize my skills to an actual Army, like real world problem, like, hey, this is concrete, like this is what they want, here's a goal, how do we get there? And figuring out that programming, like kind of the development model, and then actually implementing it, and then working through all the bugs, like to actually see a project from start to finish that has real world applications, to me was very helpful, and motivating me to like, hey, like there's still a lot you got to learn, but it's all right.
So gotta keep going. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir. And more importantly, that like my skills can be used in the Army, and I was very surprised to see that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Diego, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. It was a pleasure working with you, and everybody watching. Again, Cadet Diego Soto carried most of the work for us, but this is a project that we were really proud of that we got to work on. Have a good day.